Hey guys, it's Margaret again. Sorry I look a little rough. I'm kind of sick, but I'm going to do a video for you guys anyway. So, today's video is going to be about my birth story on my son, Levi. And so, let's get into it. So, I was supposed to have him on October 10th. That was his due date. And I went to the doctor because he wasn't coming yet. Like, nothing has happened, nothing changed. And I went to the doctor and they checked everything, hooked me up to this machine, and I was having contractions, but they were like timing them, seeing how far they were apart, and blah blah. And then the doctor goes, okay, I'm gonna have you drink this bunch of water so the baby starts moving more and stuff. And I was like, okay, because I weren't getting a really good accurate reading of my contractions. And the doctor comes back in and was like, you're gonna have him in like 3 more weeks. And I was like, oh no, I cannot wait 3 more weeks. This baby's already 9 pounds, 2 ounces. Like, I can't wait that long. And then my nurse comes in and she's like, I'll do anything I can. I'll see if we can have you the next day on the 11th so you can have him then. And I was like, okay, thank you so much, because I cannot wait. And so she scheduled it for the 11th, and I had him. And the hospital, I was in labor for 16 hours. It was a lot. It was so long. And so I got to the hospital. I had to wake up the next day at like 5 to go to the hospital. And we got there and I had to do a bunch of paperwork. I had to get signed in and all that. And after I did, they took me back to the room and they were going to do my IV so they can give me fluids and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And so the first nurse comes in and does my IV. She misses. And so like my vein popped and or something like that. It was like a bad vein. And then another nurse comes in, does the same thing. And then another nurse comes in, and they're like, oh yeah, she's a pro nurse, like, it'll be fine. Because, like, my veins on my hand are, like, really hard to get to. And I was like, but when I get my blood drawn, it's so easy. And they're like, yeah, that's because it's from the middle part of your arm, and your veins are more there, if that makes any sense. And they go, well, we don't want to do an IV right there because you're going to be bending your arm a lot for the baby. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And so finally that nurse came in and she was like, all right, I'm going to do your IV. And she was like joking around. She was like, this is my first time doing this, so be scared. And I was like, oh, really? And she was like, no, not really. And then she got it. Like, as she was talking to me about that, she got it. And I was like, yay, finally, you're the one that can get it. And so she got it, and then they hooked me up to the IV and gave me this mild painkiller. I forget what it was called. It was like Oxy or something like that for the baby. Anyways, something like that. And they're like, how much pain are you in? Like, mind you, this was 5 a.m. Yeah. And so, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, she just gave me the painkiller, and then hours went by. They came back in, and they were like, how much is your pain? And I was like, my pain's a 10. It really wasn't a 10. I just said it was a 10 so I could hurry up and give birth because I was so exhausted and so tired because how big I was and how much he weighed. And so they were like, oh, okay, we can give you, that's him sneezing. So we could give you more painkillers and make this go faster. I was like, okay, great. And my boyfriend and his mom were there, and they were like, "You're not in that much pain." I was like, "I know, but shh, I'm saying that so we can go faster." And they just start laughing at me. And then a couple hours later, I wasn't keeping track of time, mind you. I was like so exhausted and was ready to have this baby. And so more hours go by. I don't know, let's say like 4 hours went by, and they come back in and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna break your water now because because nothing was like happening, you know." I was having contractions, but nothing was happening. They were they were close enough apart that they could break my water and see if I would go into labor. And so they broke my water, and then after they broke my water, they're like, "Okay, we're gonna wait a couple more hours," and they're like, "If you want your epidural, then you go ahead and get your epidural." For those of you who don't know what epidurals are, it's this shot that they give you in your back, and it's like this wire thing that stays in your back and like gives you fluid, so you won't feel any pain at all. And from your hips down, you're numb, and your legs are numb. You can't walk, you can't do anything like that. And so they gave me the epidural, and no, and so then they left, and they're like, "If you want an epidural, you better get it." And so, I'm sorry I'm getting this all mixed up. It's just like what I remember is not like all in order, because like I was so drugged up. It's like kind of hard to remember, but I'm like remembering it, if that makes any sense. Anyways, so a couple hours went by, then they came in, and then I was like, "I'm ready for my epidural," because they were like, "You're going to start pushing here in like 2 hours, so you need to get your epidural if you're going to get your epidural." And so it was about like lunchtime, and my doctor, he was at lunch, and so they were like, "You better get your epidural before lunch, because everyone's going to go out for lunch." And so I got it before lunch, and then like right before my doctor got back from lunch, and then right when I get back from lunch, they're like, "All right, you're gonna have to start pushing." And the sad part, kind of like irritating part, was I was already ready to push before lunch, and like right after I got my epidural, and they wouldn't. They were like, "You're gonna have to hold off because your doctor's not in here and stuff." And I was like, "That's bullshit. Like, my baby's ready to come out. I'm ready to have this thing. Let me push." And I was pushing anyway. Little did they know. And so, right after they broke my water, it just all happened so fast. And so, I was pushing, you know, nothing was happening, and the baby wasn't coming out or anything, and so I was getting really, really worried, and it was just a nurse in there with me at this time, because my doctor was helping someone else that was in labor before me, so that's why I also had to wait. And so, I was waiting, and then I started pushing, and then the doctor comes in finally and was like yelling, push harder, you can do this, push harder." And I was like, "I am, like, as hard as I can, I am. Like, it's as hard as I can go." And he, mind you, he has really big hands. And he was in the military, so he, like, yells in the top of his lungs, and I was like, "Can you stop yelling at me? You're not helping me, yelling at me like this." And my nurse, he was a dude, and he was the best nurse you could possibly have when you're going into labor. He was like, "You got it, mama, you got it, push, come on, you're almost there," and stuff. He's like, "All right, go back into it like you did the other times." And I was like, okay, I will. And then, so I was in labor, you know, and then the doctor comes back in and was like, "If you don't hurry up and push him out, you're going to have an emergency C-section." And I was like, "Why? Like, no, this can't happen. I don't want this to happen." And because I was terrified to already have birth, so the fact that I was going to possibly have an emergency C-section was even more terrifying. And so, oh, it's okay. And so I ended up not having a C-section, but the problem was, the reason why I would have to have an emergency C-section is because he was stuck in the birth canal, and his heart rate was dropping rapidly fast. It would drop, and then it would come back up. Drop, come back up. And it was like really weird. And so he knocked the phone out of my hand. And so that's why I was going to have an emergency C-section. Luckily, I didn't. And finally, a couple hours later, I gave birth to 9 pounds, 2 ounces baby boy named Levi. And oh my God, it was such a journey. I was in labor for 16 hours. Yeah, 16 hours. And my eyes, from pushing so hard, my eyes were like swollen, like shut. They were like that. And the also thing that really made me mad is my boyfriend's mom was there, and I told her I don't want anyone to post any pictures first. I want to be the first person to post pictures about my son, and it's also my first kid. So, and I know it's her first grandchild, but like she could have respected my word of not posting anything until I post something. Then you can, and she didn't. Like, as soon as I had him, she posted pictures on Facebook, and everyone saw it. And it just made me so upset, and I'm still irritated about it to this day. But there's nothing I could do now because he's here, But yeah, that made me really mad. And so yeah, 16 hours in labor, 16 hours total, pushing for 3 hours straight. And it was just such a journey. It was so hard. I was so terrified, but when it happened, I was so glad that it was over and that he was here finally. And I was so happy to take a shower, but I had to wait like a couple hours. But yeah, after I had him, everybody on my boyfriend's side of the family was already in the waiting room, and my nurse was telling me, everyone wants to come and see the baby. Can they just come for 10 minutes? Like, they said that they just want to come for 10 minutes to see the baby because they all had to, like, be somewhere apparently. And so I was like, no, nurse, I don't want anyone coming in right now, because I was feeding him and I was just too exhausted to see anybody at this point. I was like, maybe can they wait like hours and then they can come. And so they were like, no, that they wouldn't. And so I was like, whatever, just have them come in. And so they all came in. It was a bunch of ass people, and like I could barely keep my eyes open because they were so swollen. I was so tired. Hadn't eaten in like 48 hours, and it was just horrible. So they came in, saw him. Then no one got to hold him because he was eating, and then they left. And then I was in the hospital for 4 days because how big he was, for one, and two, because his glucose level, was very, very low and was dropping, and it was like on and off dropping, not dropping. And so that's also why I was in the hospital for 4 days. And finally, like, I was just breastfeeding him, and then he wasn't getting enough from it. And so the nurse came in and was like, you're going to have to use formula too. And I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't really want to formula feed. And then eventually I just stopped breastfeeding because, one, I wasn't producing anymore, and he wasn't getting enough. He was always crying for more food and stuff. And so I just stuck to formula now. But yeah, he's a healthy baby, and this is my birth story on Levi. And I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want me to do any more videos like on my son or birth or like just like anything, just comment down below and I'll be happy to do it. And here's Levi. I'll show you. He's hanging out with me. He's hanging out with me as I do this video. Say hi, big boy. Say hi. But yeah, guys, just let me know what you guys think and what you want me to do. Sorry, I'm exhausted right now. Sleep-wise is crazy. And I'll be happy to do it for you guys. Okay, bye.